everybody needs to get knowledgeable. You can watch Stansberry, read Stansberry, whatever you have to do to get knowledgeable. Please get knowledgeable, because we're going to have some very complicated times in the next 2 or 3 or 4 years. A lot of countries and people are going to go bankrupt. But if you're knowledgeable about what's going on, you will become prepared. And if you get prepared, you might make a lot of money. A lot of people made a lot of money in the 30s, Daniela. It was a horrible economic disaster, but a lot of people came out of it rich. The key is to be prepared, know what you're doing, don't listen to hot tips, and just invest in what you yourself know a lot about. But a lot of people, and I hope I do survive, but a lot of people are not going to survive the next bear market.
Veteran investor Jim Rogers, who co-founded the Quantum Fund with billionaire investor George Soros, says that what is happening with the US dollar now is the end of the US dollar. He explained that an international currency is supposed to be neutral, but in Washington, they are now changing the rules, emphasizing Washington does not play fair anymore. None of this should be happening. It's absolute madness, a shocked Jim Rogers said in an interview with Danielle of the Stansberry Research. Rogers argues that the current geopolitical crisis stems from 2014, when the U.S. State Department instigated a coup in Kiev. U.S. elected leaders are seeing their actions being paid for gravely. Now we're all paying a gigantic price for it, he said. Rogers details his argument on why the increasing prospects of Georgia and Ukraine joining NATO aggravated Russia, and how the threshold of tolerance was breached from Russia's point of view years later. Rogers emphasizes a critical stance against economic sanctions and how financial warfare directed from the U.S. will crush the dollar sooner than expected. Frantically, other sovereign nations are trying to come up with something to compete with the U.S. dollar, the legendary investor told me. The U.S. is shooting ourselves in the foot every day, he says. This comes off the heels of the Biden administration's pause on all Russian oil imports as sanctions and financial warfare continue to ramp up as a deterrent of war. Before we listen to Jim, please don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel if you are yet to do so. Thanks for your support.
Everybody knows what the world's international currency is supposed to be. Anybody can use it for anything. But now Washington, in the last few years, has started putting sanctions on people. Daniela, it is ruining America, ruining parts of America, because now everybody is frantically looking for something to compete with the dollar. The Chinese, the Russians, the Indians, the Brazilians, the Iranians are all working as fast as they can to come up with something to compete with the US dollar for political reasons, also economic reasons. I mean, America is the largest debtor nation in the history of the world, but we're shooting ourselves in the foot every day. This means that now, sooner than it would have been, the US dollar will no longer be the world's medium of exchange in the international currency. That's not good for the US. It certainly was not good for Britain, which used to be the world's international currency. When they lost that status, well, they lost a lot of things.
It makes me think of a recent quote I read from Charlie Munger, who said he's working with the thesis that in 100 years' time, there will be no US dollar.
No currency has lasted forever. No currency, no number one currency has ever lasted forever. If you go back and look at history, we've had international currencies, or the world's medium of exchange. Maybe they lasted 80 years, 100 years, 150 years max. They've all changed. It's changed over and over and over ever since the beginning of time. The US has been on top for a while, but now, as I said, we are the largest debtor nation in the history of the world. And now we will not let the US dollar stay neutral. Now we're using it as a political or an instrument of war. So that means nobody in his right mind who thinks they might cross the US someday is going to want to use US dollars. I don't think I'm ever going to cross the US dollar, the US, the State Department, but I worry. Now I got to figure out something else, some other place to keep my money.
Replaces the US dollars, and if that will be in the form of a digital dollar. Jim replied that there's no question that every currency is going to be on the computer, as currently happening in China, where people can't spend any money that is not in digital form. According to him, you can't even buy an ice cream with money in China. You have to have your money on the computer. Every country is working on it, including the US, so all money is going to be on the computer sooner or later. Rogers said that governments are already working on their own digital currencies, but holds firm when detailing that he cannot see the world having 100% computer money. He predicts that sovereign nations will explain to citizens how government-issued digital coins will be secure and safe for the good of the people, and most will believe it.
The fears of a recession concern you?
Of course, it's been 12 years since we had the last recession in the US. That's the longest in American history. So we're overdue just on a time basis. I mean, it could last 20 years. Who says couldn't go on forever, but it never has. So I am sure because of inflation higher, which will drive interest rates higher, we're going to have a recession in the foreseeable future. I'm not trying to scare people. I'm just telling them that's the way it's always worked since the beginning of time. So yes, we're going to have a recession, probably fairly soon. You should read Stansberry. They'll tell you when the recession is coming. They're smarter than I am. And when the recession comes, a lot of us are going to get hurt. I hope I survive. I hope we all survive, but some people are going to get hurt.
I believe you recently said, Jim, that once the war is over, the stock market could see another hurrah, but then there'd be a downturn events.
Well, that's my view. I'm not good at market timing, but my view is something is going to cause this thing in Ukraine to calm down fairly soon. It's not doing Putin any good. It's not doing anybody any good. So who knows what? If he can find a way to save face, things will stop. That will lead to a big rally, especially since central banks are not so aggressive right now. We'll have the big rally and be the last rally. I hope that if it works that way, that I'm smart enough to sell that last rally. It'll probably be a big rally, because then people say, gosh, nothing can win the stock market now. And then it'll be the end.
Do you think that the Fed is downplaying the crisis of inflation that we find ourselves in?
The Fed is a crisis, yes. The Fed has rarely been right about anything in the history of the Federal Reserve. What is it, 110 years old almost now? They've rarely been right about anything. They told us that there was no inflation. Then they said it was transitory. I don't know, don't pay that much. I don't know what they're saying now. Throughout history, money printing and borrowing and spending huge amounts of money has always led to inflation. We're going to have inflation now. It's going to get worse. It won't go up every day, but it's going to get worse. And that's going to lead to higher interest rates, and it's going to lead to profit erosion in some industries and some companies. And all of us are going to have to pay more for a loaf of bread or whatever we buy. Danielle, I know you've been around a while. Bear markets always hurt a lot of people, especially the stocks that have been the strongest. Go back to any big bear market, and the stocks that were very strong before the bear market go down 70, 80, 90% sometimes, even if the company survives. Amazon, Microsoft, these stocks in the late 90s collapsed. We still have them. The companies are still here. The stocks are still here. But the stocks that do well going into the bear market really get crushed.
Has been going up for 12 years now, the longest in American history. We have had a big bull market, and it does not mean it cannot go up another 12 years, but it never has. Inflation is here already. Interest rates will go higher. Stocks may continue to fall, which may lead to a big bear market, the worst in decades. The U.S. in a big bear market in 2008 to 2009 because of too much debt. Debt is now much higher all over the world. Therefore, we agree with Jim's analysis that tough days are ahead. While the crypto market will also be impacted by a recession, we, however, believe it's the best bet to inflation right now and the best asset that has the best potential to recover and grow quickly. Please go get yourself some Bitcoin to protect yourself and family against the coming global financial tough times. Thanks for watching, and stay savvy till our next video.